Aloha, everyone. I hope you have chosen an attitude today that will enhance your enjoyment of life, living, and the opportunity for giving. Welcome to Dr. P's Facets of Life series. This is pod number 22. Today's topic, procrastination. Tool, torment, or both. This is a topic that is near but not so dear to my heart. You see, I grew up with a father who was a real procrastinator. I witnessed the often dire consequences of his habit or his trait. Of course, he was one of my two role models, the other being my mother, who was exactly the opposite of being a procrastinator. As you might imagine, this difference was a source of many preventable arguments and emotional strife. Whatever predisposition I may have had to becoming I can hardly say the word, it's so objectionable. Whatever predisposition I may have had to becoming a procrastinator was overridden by my fears of similar consequences as those that I witnessed and lived around. I worked very hard in my early years to make sure I went in a different direction. I was not always successful, but ultimately saw numerous advantages to being the opposite of a procrastinator. The most valuable and hidden advantage was that I came to realize how much less stress I was having in my life because of it. You know, we all put things off from time to time, but procrastinators make a habit of avoiding certain tasks and may even deliberately look for distractions to ease the potential anxiety they might face regarding the task. Many procrastinators struggle with self-control. They allow delayed action to take precedence over goal achievement and responsibilities. If this occurs, there is a risk of accumulating negative emotions that could spiral out of control. Some procrastinators are also perfectionists, believe it or not. Almost sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? But it isn't. These people would choose to avoid a task rather than risk not doing it well. They fear judgment and criticism. What they fail to consider is the degree of pressure, stress, and negative consequences of their avoidance. However, at some point, the piper will have to be paid. The perfectionists also fail to consider that the quality of their work or task may very well suffer because they lacked the time to accomplish things in a more perfect way. Seems kind of weird, yes? I would love to hear the conversation a procrastinator hears with him or herself. You know, we all have these conversations with ourselves all of the time. But one of those conversations probably contains some thoughts that he or she does not believe they will enjoy doing the task, thereby avoiding being unhappy. Perhaps they fear they won't do well. Perhaps they feel they might be in over their heads. Or perhaps they are confused and afraid to admit it. In any event, there are frequently negative consequences to the behavior that is procrastination. For example, a student might get lower grades. Where might that lead? A worker might produce a poorer quality of work. And if that is habitually the case, there may be a risk of demotion or loss of job or stifled advancement. Worse yet, possibly adversely affect co-workers. Personal and professional relationships can suffer or be lost due to habitual procrastination. The list of undesirable consequences can be quite extensive. Solutions to this behavioral problem are quite possible but can prove very difficult for some. Solutions require changes in habits, some of which may represent self-definition and self-identity. That means there will need to be adequate and appropriate motivation in order to have the best odds of succeeding at the change. This means a person will have to find some kind of personal currency to self-motivate into action. Just to clarify, personal currency is a thing or many things that a person feels are valuable, desirable, and a priority in that person's life. I believe change that is done gradually is usually easier and more likely to stick than change done on a massive scale. Remember the old adage, don't bite off more than you can chew? An important consideration for the procrastinator who wants to change and who might need stronger motivation would be to have empathy for those who would be adversely impacted by his or her behavior. That's enough for this topic today. This is Dr. P reminding you that gratitude is the best attitude. Until next time, aloha.